Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Auntie Lara. In this lesson, I'll be taking you through the compulsory questions that is required of you to answer in literature. So, what you need to know before you sit the 2024 literature examination is that there is paper 1, 2, and 3. Paper 1 and 2 comes together, and so you'll be writing paper 1 and 2 at once. Paper 1 consists of 50 objective questions, whilst paper 2, now they are going to ask you questions based on the recommended text for prose. And so you are expected to answer 2 questions on that. For paper 3, you are expected to answer 4 questions. 2 on drama and 2 on poetry. Okay, so let's get started. For paper 1 and 2, like I said earlier, paper 1 is basically objectives. Now the objective questions is also divided. There are 20 questions that are based on general knowledge in literature. 5 questions are based on unseen prose passage. Another 5 on unseen poem. And 20 compulsory questions on Midsummer Night's Dream. So if you are here to read Midsummer Night's Dream, please, this is the right time for you to read it. And for paper 2, that is based on prose. And we have African prose and non-African prose. So they are going to be, Waec is going to be testing your knowledge on both African and non-African prose. There is section A and there is section B. Section A deals with African prose, where you will be asked questions from the 2 prescribed texts. The 2 texts under African prose are Second Class Citizen and Unexpected Joy at Dawn. Waec is going to set 2 questions under Second Class Citizen and 2 questions under Unexpected Joy at Dawn. Now, you have 4 questions in all. You are expected to answer 1. Note that 1 question carries 25 marks. So, section B, we have non-African prose. And so, questions will be asked on the 2 prescribed texts under non-African prose for Waec. And the first one is Wuthering Heights. The second one is Invisible Man. For Wuthering Heights, you have 2 questions. For Invisible Man, you have two questions. You have to answer any one you are comfortable would fetch you a good score. For paper 3, we have drama and poetry. Paper 3 is divided into 4 sections. The section A is for African drama, section B, non-African drama, section C, African poetry, and section D, non-African poetry. So that means that for each of the sections, you are answering just 1 question. There is going to be 4 questions in section 1. Answer just 1. 4 questions in section 2. Answer just 1. 2 questions in section C. Answer just 1. And 2 questions in section D. Answer just 1. So for section A, which is the African drama, we have The Lion and the Jewel. We have 2 questions under that. And we have Let Me Die Alone. And we have 2 questions under that. So making 4 questions in all. You are expected to pick just 1. Just 1. For section B, which is the non-African drama, 2 questions will be asked on Fences and 2 questions will be asked on Look Back in Anger. You are expected to pick any one that you are comfortable answering. For section C, we have the African poetry. Now we have poems here that you are expected to have learned, that you are expected to have read, that you are expected to have known. However, questions will be asked on just 2 of these poems. Please note, And the reason why you need to learn all the 6 poems is because you don't know which of the poems they are going to bring questions from. Please, I will implore you to please again read all the poems, both African and non-African. Now, for non-African poetry, you also have 6 questions will be asked from just 2 poems. So please, under African poetry, we have 2 poems. You have 1 question for one of the poem, 1 question for the other poem. Let's say for African poetry, they have decided to bring out the leader and the led and song of the women of my land. They are going to set just 1 question on the leader and the led and just 1 question on song of the women of my land. And they're going to go to non-African poetry and pick, let's say, Cage Bird and Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night. They would set just 1 question on that Cage Bird and 1 question on that Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night. So you pick any of the poem from each of the section that you feel that you can answer adequately, and you respond, you answer the question. Now let's go back to African poetry. Now I've been, by the grace of God, opportune to be an assistant examiner for Waec. So to a large extent, I want you to listen to this, to what I'm about to tell you. Now you notice that I added particular year to each of these poems. These years in front indicate that the questions were brought out from that particular poem that year. So let's start from 2021, when the syllabus started. Question was set on Radar of the Treasure Trove and question was set on the Grave Lands of Africa. In 2022, question was set on Leader and the Led and question was set from Song of the Women of my Land. Now, last year, question was set on the government driver on his retirement and Black woman. Now you wonder, this year, where would the question be set? I do not know. Okay, so because I do not want you to quote me anywhere, that was why I stated earlier that you should please, if you've not learned or if you've not revised, or if you do not know anything about all of this poem, I would advise that to go and learn the poem and know how to appreciate each of this poem. Now we are going to use method of elimination. I have told you to read all the poems, yeah? So now, there is every possibility that they would not ask question from the poem that was brought out last year. I have 95% conviction that they would not ask question from last year. So we are striking out government driver and we are striking out Black woman. If I were you, after reading the analysis on all the poems, I'll pay much more attention again on Radar of the Treasure Trove and the Grave Lands. Why? Because those were the 2 poems that was set at the beginning of this syllabus, this 2021 to 2025 syllabus, and that was the only time that questions was set from them. If I was to write this Waec, I would pay much more attention on Radar of the Treasure Trove and the Grave Lands of Africa. I would also pay attention to the rest of the poem. Please do not get me wrong. But I will pay much more attention on Radar of the Treasure Trove and the Grave Lands of Africa, because it's been a while and because they have asked questions on all of the poems and because there's every possibility that they will want to start from the first set of poems again. For non-African poetry, Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night was set in 2021 and it was repeated in 2023. So if I was to write Waec, I would strike this out. They would not set this They will not bring question from this poem 2021, 2023, and 2024. So I would not even bother. I will just glance through. Do not go gentle into that. Good night. I will pay much attention on Bincy Poplar, and I will pay 99.9% attention on Bat, because Bat remains the only poem that question has not been set on in all these years. Please don't get me wrong. There's still another set which is next year. So they might decide to move Bat to next year, but I doubt it so much that they will move Bat into next year. I will pay closer attention to Bat this year and to Bincy Poplars. Then I would still read up all of the remaining poem. But Bat and Bincy Poplars, I will make sure that I read and read and read and read. And when I'm done reading, then I will go to the rest of the poem and I will make sure I read, I read, I read. So if I was writing this year's Waec, I would pay attention to Bincy, I will pay attention to Bat, I will pay attention to Grivelands, and I will pay attention to Raider of the Treasure Trove. Meanwhile, I would also pay attention on the rest of the poem. Okay, so let me know in the comment section if you like me to analyze Bat. I'll be dropping more lessons ahead of this year's literature examinations. So please do turn on your notification bell so that you will be notified anytime I drop a new video. Thank you and bye for now.